maybe late or depending where they are service-wise, so we can definitely get started.
Okay, very good. So I want to begin by walking through our agenda for today. We'll start with a couple of brief slides. And our agenda for today will be recapping some of the tasks that we asked of your team following our first training session earlier this week. We're then going to move into the more advanced features that we're going to build upon those tasks that you completed yesterday to build a business demand forecast, and then use that business demand forecast to generate your suggested labor forecast. We're going to take the work that you've done by creating a schedule manually and converting that into a template, making your schedule creation process much quicker and simpler moving forward. And we're going to guide you through creating your first live schedule, meaning you will be posting this schedule and it will be accessible to all of your team members to begin working those shifts that are posted in hot schedules in the upcoming week. And we'll have a significant amount of time at the back end to make sure that we're able to talk through each of the things that we're reviewing with you today and make sure you feel comfortable with what next steps are. So before we move into our recap of the first set of training, I want to go over some of the key concepts that we're going to be. Sorry, just letting some folks in from the lobby there. Before we jump into reviewing some of your feedback, and appreciate your feedback in the logbook daily logs and some of your questions in the task list, we're going to walk through the key concepts of what we're going to be demonstrating in our live environment today, beginning with that artificial intelligence and machine learning forecasts. Remembering that we have worked with your corporate team to back populate years of historical data for your individual stores, and we're processing that daily through our AI engine to account for your trends, as well as accounting for things like ticketed events, ball games, extreme weather events, holidays, school calendars, and producing the most accurate expected upcoming levels of business, what we refer to as your business forecast, so you can create the most informed schedule, starting with a good plan and allowing your team to execute that good plan. We're going to use that business forecast to convert it into some intuitive reporting that will show you your, represented by the blue vertical lines, the suggested amount of staffing that you have in relation to your peaks and troughs in business, based off of some business logic that we've built in by default for you, as well as reviewing either a chart or graph of how many hours you need, sum total, to achieve not only the total number of hours that you would like to schedule out, but where those hours should be. So before we move into our Insight demonstration, I'm going to take a minute to review some of the feedback that we got from our previous call. And it looks like we've got a couple that are trying to join the meeting but having trouble. I'm going to take just a second to see if we can get those in the lobby to join us before we press forward.
I've been admitting them as they're coming. It's only Reese that just keeps saying admitting.
Okay.
Yeah, he just messaged me saying that he's stuck in the waiting room. Maybe I'll get him to drop off and try and reconnect.
Yeah, try again. Yeah, but I'm keeping an eye. I have that in my window, Dylan.
Okay, thank you, David. So we'll press forward then. I'm going to, Rosie, I believe, at least last I checked, you were the only one to provide some feedback on some of the tasks that you were completing. So I'd like to address each of those items as it may be helpful for the rest of the team. One being, when you create availability in the system, if you set up an availability for today, you can't remove that availability for today. You have to add that to the next day, and it will take effect then. Although you do have the ability as a manager to schedule over a day that they are unavailable. So it doesn't keep you from creating your schedule. It's just the way that the user interface was built out and intended to be utilized. You also had a question about not being able to create shifts on Monday. So it is also intended functionality of the tool that you're not able to add shifts in the past. So that would have been expected if you were trying to add a shift for Monday morning after our training call. Apologies, I should have been a little more clear with that as part of the initial training and ask. And then you did have one more question. I'm trying to find my notes real quick while we're walking through. If you remember off the top of your head, feel free to jump in.
Actually, they were all, you just answered them. I think I commented on, it's very intuitive once you start putting it together.
Mhm.
But you addressed my last concern. I think I got an email last night from you
Okay.
guys. So it's all good. So thanks for the feedback. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Outstanding.
So
Were there
can I
any?
ask, I'm sorry, can I ask a
Yeah,
question about this actually?
of
So
course.
on Monday, because it's past, we can't add a shift, but let's say I called someone that was not on the schedule to cover someone that didn't show up and I want to put them on a schedule. Am I able to do that?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
But if you call them in for a 10 a.m. shift and you don't, and so if they clock it at 10 and leave at 2 and you go in at 3 and try to add that shift, it won't allow you to do that.
Ah, okay.
So it kind of needs to be like a real-time
Yeah,
thing,
right
but
away.
also
Okay.
that's just the scheduling component. You do also have what will be the main point of topic for our call on Friday. You do also have the ability to manage those punch records and the UI. So rather than being on the front end of them working, you can ensure that those punch records are captured in the event that maybe they walked in and started working and forgot to clock in, or if you need to make a correction to a punch record that had synced over from your point of sale.
Okay, thank you.
So before we move into the new content for today, was there any other feedback on manually creating your shifts, adding availability, or blocking days?
Just this Aaron here, just a couple ideas. One is like if we are covering a shift, is there a way to, or maybe it already exists, that we're tracking that? So if we have an employee that is covering a lot of shifts or someone who is, bailing on a lot of shifts, is there a running tally for that somewhere?
So we do have enhancements to the AI component to flag patterns in that way. It's not part of the feature set that's available today, but that is in the planned enhancements. To
Okay,
say
that'd
like
be interesting. And then,
David is scheduled every Friday, but he's given up the last 5 of them. You should probably just stop scheduling David on Friday, kind of thing.
right, or schedule it all if you keep shifts.
Yeah.
But and then the other question I had is that like we have a lot of when I was going through availability, I was talking to the managers back and forth that it seemed like it was quite rigid, quite structured. And I was like, yeah, but I know this person here will close every once in a while. And she said, yeah, she's okay with closing once every couple weeks. Is there ability to tier availability? Because it's like a lot, there's some availability that's just locked in. There's some that it's like, yeah, I'll do you a favor every once in a while. Um,
So we do 2 things there. We do have a planned enhancement to make alternating availability a thing. That's something that we've been working on throughout this year, which means you can have like A/B schedules. I don't think that satisfies exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for more so of a preference or a soft request rather than a hard availability.
Yeah.
So we do have what we have turned on in your environment is a availability and a request off. The request off does require a sort of hard ask and approval from a manager to be flagged as accepted. We do also have a soft ask where an employee can flag, I would like to not work Thursday night, but there's no approval workflow. It's really just a flag to them to say, it's not like a hard no, but I don't want to. And
right.
generally, we don't turn both of those actions on. It's either one or the other, and is more so around policy of if you do approve time off ahead of time, or if the policy is you can request and we will honor your request if we can, but ultimately we won't tell you if we're going to honor that request until we've posted the schedule. The thing is, if we turn both of those on, what we've seen in the past is it creates confusion where someone uses the soft request in place of the hard request, or knows and then tries to play the game with you and not be there for their shift or what have you. So we can demonstrate both of those functionalities maybe on our call next week so you can make an educated decision, but typically it's one or the other. And ultimately, if your group prefers the soft ask exclusively, we can disable the hard ask and enable the soft ask.
Interesting. I mean, sorry, I guess there's one other thing that popped up. I'm doing this for my managers, which I haven't done a hands-on schedule and I don't know how long. And so the other thing that I noticed was interesting is that when I look at the availability, I can, just from knowing my sales patterns, I could see times where we are light, that if someone calls in sick or if someone needs to take a week off, we don't have the ability to really cover that. And I know that whatever in the business would figure it out through some other way. Is there within that to show our risk of our scheduling so that it would help us make better education on hiring to make sure we have buffers at the same time?
Yeah, and that's a really interesting call out that your managers probably just deal with it, but until you got your hands on it, it wasn't highlighted as a risk to you. We do have a report called the availability report that has flagged risks of you only have one person that is available to work at this time. So if that person wins the lottery or needs to go on a vacation, you would not be able to cover this shift based on existing availability. And we can put that into our in-depth reporting section that's scheduled for our call on Friday as well.
Interesting. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. So what I've done is I've pulled up our IQ landing page, and we're going to begin by navigating to our 9-dot menu. We're going to go through the full workflow of a schedule creation process, and creating any good schedule begins with creating a business forecast. Oh, Raman, I saw your hand go up. Do you have a question as well?
Hi, Dylan. I'm so sorry. I missed the one part like yesterday's for giving a feedback. Is it under the logs, daily logbook? And
It sure is. So let's go take a look at that before we jump into creating a forecast. If we go into our hot schedules, the labor site, under the 9-dot menu under logbook, there are two ways that you can provide feedback. The first way is through the store logs. The first category of daily journal, if you select create entry for daily journal, you can free type that and even add additional categories to help us filter what type of feedback you're providing. So that's the most straightforward way. We do also have a forced mechanism to provide feedback through the logbook task lists, where if you were to answer a question that I am unable to complete this task, it will walk you through adding a comment describing what you need help with or what was unclear. And those are the things that we've reviewed in our between our last call and our current call. Again, big applause to Rosie for taking the time to give us that valuable feedback and give us content for our the beginning of our call today. And we do encourage all, as part of our follow-ups to each training session, to take advantage of those.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
And the only feedback I had is like when we're entering the availability, so we have to actually drag those, and then it's only letting us do unavailability drag.
Mhm.
Is there a way we can select like availability, or we can enter or type those to make it quicker?
Okay, so your feedback and perception is that by typing in their availability, it will be quicker than dragging and dropping?
Yeah, because you would have to drag twice to enter that when that person is available throughout that day.
Mhm.
So suppose if that person only available from 9 to 2, so I would have to do like from beginning to end until 9 o'clock, then 2 o'clock to the closing time. So then it will be like updating for that day that that person is only available 9 to 2.
Okay, interesting feedback.
Times.
We don't have the ability to type. We actually removed the ability to type in start and end times based off of market feedback that a drag and drop would be more efficient and preferred. But to make it a little easier on you, you can select the day to make it unavailable all day and then just drag and drop the 9 to 2.
Yeah, that would, yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah. I didn't try that way. Perfect.
So I am going to back out of this. And again, going through our day in the life of a manager, we're going to begin with, when I sit down to create my schedule, I first need to create a good business forecast. What do I expect to happen in the upcoming week? In my 9-dot menu, we have our forecast manager. Remember, our AI forecast is constantly chugging through historical data and trends to produce what your expected upcoming level of business would be, represented in this dashboard. As you can see down below, we have different color schemes, and this is broken out by what we refer to as your revenue center or sales channel, such as third-party delivery, catering, or mobile ordering. You'll also see, as sales pass, your actual sales by day. Great job here. It looks like you exceeded your planned forecast sales by about 5%. And you also will see notable days. They will be called out by these gold stars. So for example, in this week, you've just had Remembrance Day, which is flagged down here at the bottom. Before our upcoming week, we also have additional, well, it's dependent on where you are. We have additional flags, might be in the future week here, for sporting events and things of that nature. I know that the Maple Leafs have a game coming up that was represented in the example I was looking at earlier. But each of these things are accounted for in what the projected level of business is, both on a weekly and daily basis and intraday as well. If you want to look at your daily view, you can see those peaks and troughs and planned business by revenue center. You can also make adjustments to any of these days or the week as a whole, or even down into the hour if you prefer, though generally outside of events that are not included in the historical data, we want you to trust in the intraday accuracy of the sales forecast. It's informed, it's intelligent, and the guardrails that we want you to keep in mind are it understands the trends year to year, day of week, week over week, month over month, seasonality. And what we really want you to contribute to the machine learning forecasts are things that are irregular and outside of that data set. Like there's going to be construction outside of your business over the weekend that you're aware of, but that doesn't happen on a regular basis. In those cases, you can make an adjustment to your forecast, either by day, by revenue center. You can do so by checking the box and simply typing in a different figure that will evenly distribute the impact to your business, whether upward or down, by each of the revenue centers that you see here. Again, we generally deter making inline adjustments by dollar value. It seems to be more emotional, where I feel like I'm going to do 13,000 instead of 12,000. We want to get more calculated than that. So if we go back to our days here, the way that we recommend making these adjustments are actually by adding an event. This does a couple of things. Adding an event starts to build the data set and reference for the AI tool to understand patterns. So we have pre-configured event categories. These can be modified, added to, for example. So if we say that maybe there's a ticketed event near you for a local play, something that wouldn't be captured in like a Ticketmaster or NHL ticket box, which is included in the algorithm, but you know because you're in touch with the community that this locally ticketed play is something that's going to increase your business. So you can call this the name of the play or the type of event. You can select your day of the week. This play is actually just on Friday. And you can isolate it down to specific times of the day if needed. This play is actually going to be around 5 o'clock. So I think this is going to impact my business between 4 and 7. Right here, we're making an adjustment by percent. This adjustment by percent will scale up or down each of those revenue centers in the same way. So if I think this is going to impact my business by 15% between that 4 and 7 o'clock period, from there I would just hit save event. And what it'll do is it will process that event through all of the existing math and show that you have one event that's been applied, but not synchronized. So what does that mean? That means that you are basically working in your forecast in a in progress state. You haven't yet pushed it down to calculate your labor, down to your scheduling tool, or in other future states where you may be using the inventory and menu management modules. It would inform your inventory suggested ordering and things of that nature as well through a centralized intelligent forecast. In this case, whenever I'm done making adjustments to my forecast, I would want to select sync forecast. So what I'm doing right now is I'm removing that forecast by resetting my forecast, because this is an actual live location at Beaver Bank and I don't want to increase or decrease their forecast erroneously. So I'm going to pause for a moment, ask for any questions or feedback, anything about why are we creating a forecast at this stage? How do I make an adjustment to my forecast, or how do I analyze the accuracy of that forecast? I'll open the floor to anybody on the call.
Just a quick question, because you guys have downloaded all the data. So I assume you've been doing test runs on the forecasting. Like how accurate has it been?
So it depends on store to store, but you actually have this data available so you can go look at the forecast accuracy within the UI itself. But we have been testing this not just with your business, but with many other businesses of your scale. And we've seen improvement across the board with everybody against their existing forecast tool.
Okay.
We're really
Yeah, I
excited
think
to bring it to market
there
for
was
you
a
guys. Good.
Yeah, there was a presentation this morning. Sorry, I was off camera there. There was a presentation this morning from our data science team up through some of the executive level within the TIMS corporate team, and using these 5 sites as a starting point, we looked and saw that the accuracy on average across the stores was around 16% pre AI forecast, so a 16% variance in weighted accuracy. So not just I forecasted $100,000 and I did 101, which is a 1% accuracy, but actually looking at the accuracy throughout the days. And so I think the average from what I recall from the meeting, the average pre this test was 16%. And we got that down to 6% as an average. So quite a jump in accuracy, but ultimately looking at that feedback from you guys, knowing your individual stores, than us just looking at a bunch of numbers in a report.
And that stays like that's a huge improvement. Does that stay consistent when you look at the hourly versus just like a whole day as a package?
So that's actually taking that number, that 6% is looking at actually the accuracy of every 15-minute interval, but using both over forecasting and under forecasting weighing in the same way, as opposed to standard forecast accuracy where you could have been up by 20,000 on Monday, down by 20,000 on Tuesday. And if somebody looks at it on Wednesday, they're like, wow, Aaron, you nailed it. But actually you were way over on one day and way over on the other. So those numbers, that 16 and the 6, is looking at the weighted absolute percent error, or WAPE as we like to call it, across all those time periods.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So is this also where I mean, you probably looked at my forecasting and thought, why is it so off? It's because we renovated a store around the corner. So is this where I would also put in, if I knew for the next 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks, I'd be impacted by a store being renovated in my area? Is that
Yeah.
similar, is where I would do the adjustments to what
Yeah,
Dylan just
anything that
described? Okay,
anything that you know that we don't yet. Because yeah, we know the sales patterns based on standard week over week, month over month, last 5 weeks, like those sorts of things. And again, the sporting events. So there's I think I forget which store is in one of the stores in Calgary. There's a bunch of events going on, like theater events and sporting events over the next couple weeks. Same in Toronto. So those things are already included and will show within the forecast. But anything that you know that we don't yet, we ask that if you know it's going to impact either positively or negatively, that you make those adjustments, but try to, where possible, target those adjustments for the right days, the right times, et cetera.
okay, fair enough. And I guess next steps would be when enough of us are on this, or when this becomes a program that we roll out, I guess Tim's would be able to feed to you guys renovations, and then you would be able to automatically feed that into our forecasts. Is that kind
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
where it's going? Okay,
We can
fair
take
enough.
all that data. We can take all that data in now, sort of through email me and I'll put them in. But we're building out a user interface in this tool where the home office could manage it down to the franchisees and potentially down to the store, depending on what level of permission you give them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So we'll move now from establishing or validating our forecast. If it doesn't need to be touched, there's no additional action needed. If you need to apply an adjustment, just make sure that you hit that sync forecast button and heed that alert that says if there are any forecast adjustments that haven't yet been applied. From here, and for those that have multiple locations, you can just select the change location and navigate to your preferred store here. What we'll do is we're now prepared to go and create our schedules because we have created our business forecast. Going back to our IQ dashboard and navigating down to labor, we're gonna pick a store here. Going into our schedules, we're gonna go to our future week. And you see a notification here saying that you can't create a schedule yet because you haven't yet generated your labor. Generating labor means producing your expected labor demand, how many employees you're going to need to work. This report that pops up naturally on my screen, you may need to drag up from the bottom. So you'll see house shift manager schedule summary and labor volume. You can select it or drag that report up, selecting that labor volume. This is your forecast, your peaks and troughs in business for sales. You can also reference transactions if you prefer. They're a little more spiky. And since we have confirmed our forecast and all of our adjustments are ready to go, to calculate our labor demand, we first come up to the menu at the top right-hand corner and select Generate Labor. For the team at 8th Street, I'm gonna save you a step by generating your labor for you. It'll take a second to calculate, and what it's doing is it's taking those incremental every 15 minutes and processing it through those sales per labor hour metrics, which have been configured on the back end on your behalf based off of some standards that we've worked with the corporate team on. Though in a non-proof of concept scenario, will give your administrators a greater level of access to be able to hone those in and tweak them to your preferences. As you can see, we have a new data point down here at the bottom. These vertical blue lines show you how many employees we suggest that you have work at this time for every hour. Or if you zoom in using your classic view by toggling this switch, and how we demonstrated on our last call, you'll be able to see that by every 15 minutes, noticing that you're ramping up during peaks in business and down when your business is declining. You can also see your availabilities that you've entered into the system up here at the top. So we can see that the fruits of our labor of entering those availabilities. So great job there. Any questions on how you convert your business forecast into labor demand forecasting?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
I
must
guess
have missed something. Sorry. Go ahead.
so.
I must have missed something because mine's still grayed out. Generate labor is still grayed out on mine.
What week are you on?
Where would my week be?
Right here
Well,
at the top of the
yeah.
screen.
I'm on this week. Obviously, that's the problem. Okay, so I need to be on next week then. Got it.
Correct.
Okay. And no, now I'm good. Thank you.
And I thought I heard somebody else with a question. Did anybody else?
Yeah, it's I'm wondering, how are you guys determining that scale of how much labor that we need?
So as we reviewed in our first training call, there are three main considerations. Based off of your forecast, we've established a minimum staffing requirement, layered in a sales per labor hour metric, and then added additional labor to account for pre and post shift activities. And David, I saw you come off if you want to elaborate on that further.
Yeah, no, so we primarily used some of the current scheduling data that we had available. So we had visibility of your schedules over the past few weeks. And so I used the baselines of past week schedules as sort of a starting recommendation. We understand and know absolutely full well that this recommendation right now is not perfect to the way that you may want to schedule in the future to improve performance, improve sales, right? Drive that SPLH. So we're not necessarily saying for these first couple weeks that you need to build a schedule to these blue bars, but we wanted to show you the tool of what it would recommend based on a minimum staffing plus a transactions per labor hour schedule or transactions per labor hour calculation in order to try to drive that SPLH performance. So we didn't get that data from the home office. They didn't say, hey, you always need a counter person, you always need a baker. That's something that we would do as part of a full rollout, is work with you one-to-one to understand what that labor requirement is. I took some liberties, is probably the shortest way to answer your question, but I wanted to give you a starting point that tried to identify where there may be opportunities in how you're scheduling versus where the demand is falling throughout the day.
Right, like it's like when we're going through and creating a schedule, it's kind of like you increase in efficiency the more people you have on the floor up until a certain point.
At a certain point, yes.
So there is a sliding scale that's based off of the amount of sales that we have, that how many people that you require. So it's definitely, and I guess not really a concern, but when we pull it from the existing data and we bring in the entire chain, like the people that are on this are the reason we're on this is that we're more in tune with our labor than average, is that it needs to be done in a way that can help the owners get to the goals that they need to be at. And so by using historical data from each individual restaurant, we might end up almost just helping them become better at being less efficient, if that makes any sense.
You are 100% correct, and this is what my team does effectively for a living, is build out these labor models and test them and try to get you off of the status quo and really hit your desired success criteria. With some customers and some franchisees, it may be sales. With others, it may be about labor control. With others, it may be about guest experience or a combination of those things. So the method in which I built these models for these 5 stores is not standard, and that would not be the way that we would build a labor model normally. But given the time scale and wanting to give you something that is a visual of what the tool could do, that's sort of how we ended up here. But we will be, throughout these weeks as we touch base with you, happy to go in and sort of tweak some things to address some opportunities that you feel you have within your stores.
No, and that makes sense. Like the way I think within my couple restaurants that I'm using, and I'm running it myself on this, is that I want my managers to run, because they just through experience they've come quite good at making a schedule. And how we analyze their schedules, as we look at individual hourly SPLH versus how many people are working, and that's how I can look for these trigger points. Like, hey, you need more people here, less people here, or whatever. And so I would like to see what this pumps out in tandem versus rolling it directly out to the team, because the all the other stuff, all the extra stuff for the team members, etc. Of course, it's a million times better than what we're dealing with because we have nothing. So, and I'm sure it's, so I don't expect that won't be very exciting for the teams. It's more like how do these two match up and how do we combine them so they're getting the same result. So that's great. Thank you.
Correct. No, really excited to work on this in collaboration with you guys, and knowing that even just across these 5 stores, there's a couple 24-hour stores, there's a couple city stores that are like, so there's going to be a lot that we learn collectively that will help us. And I liked Rosie's use of when this becomes the tool, not if. When this becomes the tool that all of Tim's uses, really excited to learn how you guys operate and where we can partner together on these objectives.
Rosie, we're negotiating here. Don't tell them about this with the one.
Negotiating. We're still on the last call, Aaron. This is what we're doing now, sweetheart.
Oh, was it? Well, if I missed that one, maybe that was the problem, huh?
I'm joking.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Make it good, guys, because we're the voice of whether this goes good or not.
So great discussion on sort of what the post proof of concept or pilot engagement would look like on really digging in deep to the business needs and generating the most relevant and productivity model. But I'd like to press forward with, now that we have that data available, your labor demand through the labor volume report and through the number of hours total for the week and by job in your schedule and job breakdown of your schedule. We're going to use the accomplishments from your last week's objectives by manually typing in your schedule, and I'm going to show you how to convert that into a template. In fact, we're going to create 2 templates, and you'll realize why as we go through. So for the team at 8th Street, since you have 2 locations here, I'm going to do this one for you, and you can complete the other location. I'm going to go back to a week that has schedules created already. I'm going to hide my reporting over here by selecting the hide. We'll talk about all these extra squiggly lines down here on Friday. And what I'd like to do is walk you through how to create a template based off of your existing schedule by going into menu and selecting template. You would select create template from current schedule. And if you were on the wrong week to begin with, you can navigate left and right to a historical or a future week, wherever your schedule is that you want to create a template from, directly in the interface. So in this example, we have a template for back of house, front of house, and manager. We're going to create a template for our back of house category. You can see that right now we have 0 templates available. We're going to click the create template from current schedule. It's going to ask you to create a name. So we're going to call this one our training template. And this one, just for some context and notes if you ever have to look back at it. Created by Dylan for training. And there are 2 kinds of templates that you can create. There is an assigned template. This means the template will have these shifts in this schedule already assigned out to these employees. We don't want to create that type of template just yet. We're going to walk through that in our next step. For our first template, we want to create an unassigned template. That means all of these shifts that you have assigned to employees will be retained, but they will be retained as house shifts. House shifts are shifts that have been created but not assigned to any individual yet. And we'll explain why we're doing that step now. But first, we're going to select Save, showing that we now have a training template for our back of house schedule available. Now that I have my template, I can go forward to the week that I have already created a forecast for and generated labor for, the week of the 17th. And going through that same navigation up to my menu, I realize it may be a little small if you're on a laptop, so I'll zoom in here to make it a little easier for you to see. In the menu at the top right-hand corner, go to that same templates icon, and I have my training template that I can apply. By selecting Apply, It will populate each of those shifts after my satisfying green confirmation down here to my house shift manager. So I have 15 shifts that were created, and I want to drag that up and select my house shift manager. It looks like I've got 3 baker shifts every day. The reason we created these unassigned shifts is because you may have 2 types of employees. You may have employees that generally are your fixed staff crew. I know that Rosie is going to work the Monday 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. shift every week because she has specific responsibilities in that time frame. So what I can do is I can click that 9:30 to 1:30 shift, and using my smart tools, my smart select, I can either click smart select or use the S key on my keyboard to assign that shift to those that are available to work that shift. It doesn't look like you have anybody available to work that shift based off of your existing availability. So that's a good call out. Pretty limited availability for the team there, in fact. So you do have the ability to drag a shift over their availability. It'll say that you've scheduled them over that availability, but that's a decision that you've had to make as a business because it doesn't look like you have any bakers that are available anytime. Looks like Jason here is never available. So maybe an adjustment to those availability are required, or maybe staffing up a little bit to have more available hours to distribute. The Smart Select tool, the reason it's smart is because when you hit smart, there's going to be a list of people that only meet the criteria of being available and qualified to work that shift. So they don't have an availability conflict, they have the job code that's required, and they aren't already scheduled a shift at that time. And you can simply click that person's name and it'll pull from your house shift manager to the schedule itself. So let's say I have these employees working these specific shifts every week. And all of my other shifts from one week to the next may go to different people. We call those our variable shifts. What I can do now is create an additional assigned template. This assigned template will have these 3 shifts assigned to these 3 bakers for those days, but also on a week-to-week basis, give me house shifts for my variable shifts that I can assign out to whomever is most appropriate for that unique week. I would do so by selecting Menu, going back into my templates, and creating a schedule from this template. And what we'll do is we'll call this the assigned training template, which was also created by Dylan. And this time we will use that save as assigned. So now next time I go back to apply this assigned template, all I'll have to do is assign these house shifts at the bottom. It will automatically default these shifts to these employees. So I went over quite a bit there, and I want to pause and open the floor to any questions on the difference between an assigned and unassigned template, how they're to be used, and general navigation of the Smart Select tool using your house shifts.
Yeah, I think it just highlights the importance of job coding. Because I think so this doesn't bring up, so that's my restaurant. It doesn't bring up that managers bake some shifts. It doesn't, so I need to make sure that I add in every single job onto it. So
Yes, assigning secondary jobs is going to be a really important piece. And you're right, this is a perfect real world highlight of why that's so important.
Now that
Now,
Aaron's
so-
justified his lack of staff, I have a question. Just when I wasn't able to add in Monday, when it generated my template, one of the shifts that would be that was on every other day is not there. Can I now add that in manually or no?
Exactly. Yes, you sure can.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
And it is intended as your business evolves seasonally. Let's say hockey season's over and you're in a locale that's really impacted by that, and you see a dip in business, you can remove the higher volume shifts and create an off-season template. And over the course of the year, you build a bank of seasonal templates that you can apply, keeping in mind that it's always intended, and this is going to be the next step of how we're reviewing our suggested labor versus our scheduled labor. It's always intended that you massage those templates a little bit each week to align with that week's unique peaks and troughs in business, to optimize the labor hours you have and reduce unnecessary labor.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
So for the sake of our demonstration, I'm going to drag in a bunch of bakers over here, even though they are unavailable. Oh, trying to drag it into the wrong place here. Just to show how over these days we're seeing at the top, it shows that I've scheduled 18.5 hours, though my forecasted or suggested hours are actually only 16 hours. So where did I overshoot? That's where I go to fold in my labor volume for my bakers. And I'm going to zoom in on my filter here. So by job. Now the red lines here indicate my scheduled shifts, and the vertical blue lines indicate my suggested shifts. So it looks like we have a lot on the tail end here and maybe some overlap that we can reduce. So let's zoom in on Monday. Where can I make some reductions to shifts to align with what my suggested labor are going to be? I'm gonna click the date at the top to snap those into chronological order. It seems practical and reasonable that you may have some overlap for shift transition, but it does look like you got a big tail over here at the end that you may want to drag and drop to reduce and align more closely with what the suggested labor is. So that brings us down and aligns our scheduled labor with our suggested labor. It even looks like you have a little peak in business here at 10:15. So you may actually entertain shifting this overlap slightly to where we expect that business pop to happen, to make sure that you got the right coverage in that peak period. So does that basic navigation make sense, seem intuitive to you? Any feedback?
The only feedback I have is I don't like with how much we push productivity at Tim's now. There are specific baker shifts, but a lot of time it's a multitask type situation, right? So I don't know if I'm just trying to think of how like a blended template or.
And those are things that we can bake into the productivity logic in the back end of the system, which, by the way, as part of a rollout scenario, we not only would work with you to configure the needs, but also train you on how to own those productivity configurations long term, so you could massage those as needed as your business evolves as well.
Yeah, like as much as we get the SPLH number, that which should include every single person in the store for that sliding scale. Like for a baker, for example, I guess like in our business, we say like a baker should be able to handle $750 to $800 an hour of sales. And then just like an idea for the management is like if you're running through hours that are $400 and they're not shutting down the kitchen or anything like that, then basically that baker should be helping up front 50% of the time. But because it's a blended prod rate. But okay, all right, just kind of thinking it through.
And that's exactly the type of stuff that will work through with you, and the logic on the back end is very robust. So it should be able to handle any scenario that you throw at it. At least it has in our experience with like businesses of yours.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and it's more of our approach to labor model building in a standard implementation is productivity based. while we use SPLH and TPLH metrics as more guidance and guardrails to performance, it really is about maximizing productivity in the different tasks and roles that the employees have. So I think your thought process is where we would get to with you, not exactly what we have in terms of the build at current state.
Awesome. All right, thank you.
So from a UI reference standpoint, though, the ultimate goal here is the numbers here at the top. You've scheduled 16, we've suggested 16, and those hours are placed in alignment with where the system suggests your peaks and troughs in business. You've won. You're good to go, ready to move on to the next position. So we're going to zoom out back into our regular scheduling view, and you would simply want to replicate that for each day for each role. Pretty straightforward. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go take a look at our to-do list under logbook, under task list. You'll notice that you now have a manager training 2 action list. So we reviewed our business forecasts and how to apply adjustments and push those forecast adjustments down to your labor scheduler. We showed you how to generate labor through the scheduling menu to calculate your labor demand. We've created your first unassigned template. We've applied that unassigned template, used our Smart Select tool to assign our fixed shifts, and then once our fixed shifts have been assigned, we created our assigned template to save us time for all future weeks' schedule creation. Calling out once more that you will need a template per schedule, so you'll create a front of house, back of house, and manager template on a weekly basis. That could also help with schedule rotations. If there's an agreement that David works the first Monday and Rosie works the second Monday and David works the third, you could use those as fixed shifts and templates and have A/B templates. Once you have applied you've created your assigned template for future weeks, use your Smart Select tool or drag and drop to assign all the rest of the weeks and review your labor volume report, your schedule summary report, and your labor budget report in your schedule to ensure that you have used the right number of hours. Those hours that you've used are appropriately placed based off of your peaks and troughs in business and align with your sales per labor hour metrics. Once you have posted your schedule, once you have created your schedule, you would finally post your live schedule for the upcoming week. What happens when you post a schedule is all of your employees get a push notification through the mobile application, and if they've opted into email and SMS push notifications, they receive them there as well, saying you have your schedule is now available as of this date, and this is your schedule, and will be there until you make an adjustment to that schedule or there's been a shift transaction approved by you and the other third party. What we want to do to prepare your team for that when they log in to review their first schedule is create a broadcast message. A broadcast message is a simple banner that exists at the top of your screen, and we want you to include a couple key things in a concise, strategic way. So let's walk through doing that, and I'll explain to you the suggested message and why. So if we go into our 9-dot menu under messaging, you as a leader will have access to broadcast messages. This is only available to managers. Regular employees only have access to their personal inbox and to set their message settings, which include things like push notifications to email. Broadcast messages are really, really straightforward, sweet and simple. You select create broadcast message and say, create a message title, SCHE, and then create a message body. Generally, what we recommend is a short and sweet message that says, upon logging in, we have established your availability for you. Please check your availability to make sure it's right and submit an availability change request as needed. So the reason we say that is because you accomplish a lot of stuff in that 1 or 2 sentences. You've grabbed their attention, letting them know that they should keep an eye out in the tool for important notices about business. So they'll continue to look for that banner for important info. You've let them know that their availability is in the system, but also like it exists in the system, but also they have the ability to go and request an adjustment. And you're prompting them to navigate through the system to become more familiar with it. So though it may seem like a really frivolous message and task that you're asking of them, there's really a lot to be accomplished in that one suggested approach. So generally, again, recommending you welcome them to hot schedules, let them know you've established their availability on their behalf and they need to go check it. And if there are any adjustments needed, to submit those adjustment requests through the system and you'll approve it. Any questions on that message or feedback or thoughts on maybe a alternative message that would accomplish the same task?
Dylan, can I ask you, can you confirm that you can send a message for a specific team member, not for everyone?
You absolutely can, and I'll demonstrate that here in just a moment. I do want to show you that once you post a broadcast message, you can see that here, as well as when you log in to view your schedule, you'll see that broadcast message posted at the top of the screen. And if you want to remove, let's say you caught a spelling error, you can come down to your messages and broadcast messages, and you can either edit or entirely unpost to take it down in real time. By unposting a broadcast message, it actually populates to your archives. So if it's a recurring thing, like a monthly update, you can just copy it and make minor adjustments and repost it. But to send messages to individuals, you would go through that same workflow under messages in your inbox. This will show your full inbox very much like a email inbox, but you can also compose a message and you can send a message to individuals, multiple people, or groups by schedule. Let's say I want to send a message to all of my managers and it will automatically highlight just those managers to the inbox. The rest is exactly like an email. You have a subject, you have your standard word tools, and then you have a free text body. You do have the ability to flag it as a high priority, which will color code with an exclamation point in the UI for those recipients of that message as well. Raymond, I see your hand.
Hi, Dylan. Are we able to check who have seen our broadcast message or not?
Not the broadcast message, but because it is presented on the landing page when you log into the scheduler, you can always go into, we have a login report, which will be a part of our reporting deep dive on our call on Friday. That'll show you that David logged in today. But not only that he logged in today, that he logged in from his iPhone at 2:12 and then again at 3:15. And so it's very detailed.
So like if I post a message to the team and I want to make sure that everybody gets it, and how would I know that this person actually read that or not?
So there are 3 kinds of messages in the system. We've covered 2 just now, being broadcast messages and direct messages. You as an administrator have access to the Above Store console and an enhanced messaging tool, and we refer to those as preloads. Preloads will require that if they've logged in, that they acknowledge that they have seen the message before it allows them to navigate to any other functionality in the system. So that is a surefire way to ensure that they have, and there's also reporting around how many times it's been acknowledged.
Okay, perfect. Great. Thanks for answering.
Sure. And we can include that Above Store functionality in our follow-up ops leadership training to be scheduled after we conclude the manager training on Friday. And Reese, I'm not sure if we ever ended up getting that meeting on the books. I know we intended to follow up on that, but we can touch base on that later this week.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
So let's go back into our tasks for today. Under our logbook and our task list. And let's make sure that we've gone over each of our week 2 tasks. The only task that we haven't yet completed is use your daily log to provide any feedback using the 4th feedback module. So this is a big week for us. So by creating your forecast and your suggested labor and creating your first live schedule and posting it out to your employees, what that means is your first real schedule would be posted either today or tomorrow. That'll be, as part of posting, sent out to all of your employees and made available to them through the web or through the mobile application. And they will work their first shift that is scheduled in Hot Schedules on Monday. In our meeting on Friday, we'll have an additional touch point in case you have any challenges or questions. We can make sure that you have a forum to raise those. We'll also touch on how to manage punch records in the system at that time, as well as a deep dive on the reporting available to you. Now that we've gone over all of the planned content for today, is anybody unclear in any way of what the ask of you is or how to complete these tasks?
Hi, Dylan. I have a question about the schedule. So if we post a schedule, our employee who have not set it up their app, will they be getting just an email for the schedule, or they just have to download the app if they haven't?
That's a great question. They should get an email if their email has been verified. So they will have to engage with the system in some way. What will happen is if they got that initial email welcoming them to the system by way of print welcome sheet, and they attempt to log in initially, in the same way that you logged in, there was a check your email to confirm your identity. If they've done that, they will get the push notification email. But we do also have the ability to, let's say you have somebody that's not very technical. If you want to print out a schedule, you can go to reporting, and under your reporting dashboard, you have 2 main reports that we would recommend. The weekly roster report is the easiest and most simple. Each of our reports are configurable, so you can include whatever information you'd like to include. Some people prefer not to include out times because they don't want to be chased if they have to hold on to people a little longer than originally planned. Let's say I want to have this basic information for all of my schedules for the upcoming week. I'm going to use last week as an example. And then we generate this report. Sometimes Teams is a little silly, so it doesn't show my pop-out window, so I'm just saving that to pull it up here. And you'll see, let's zoom in a little bit on that. You'll have a printable schedule that'll show for each employee for the day, the time that they're to be in, and the job that they'll be working, as well as the time out. But you also can organize that rather than just by first name. You can set it in chronological order of the shift in or out time as well. Now, if you want more detail, you can go to your extended schedule report, and this has more available information and more sorting ability. It's just a matter of how much you want on that printed schedule.
All right, perfect. And one more question. So when we go on printing the welcome, so when I was trying on my end, it was only giving me an option to send an email, not to print. Is it because that all of my employees are set it up for email?
That's interesting. No, I would expect that you would have both of those options. Are you still experiencing that?
Yeah, I can actually show you. Let me just turn it
Yeah,
on.
would you mind sharing your schedule for me? Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I go on employees, it just says send an email here. It does not give me an option to choose email or either print. And it's on same like I log on top
Wait.
top list, and then I went to all the stop list.
Interesting. Let me take a look at your profile. Bear with me for just a moment here. Is anybody else on the call experiencing the same thing? Okay, Raman, it sounds like we may have a unique scenario for you, which means that it should be a pretty quick fix. It'll just take me a couple of seconds to take a look at the back end real quick. Almost there. Do me a favor and refresh your browser and tell me if that fixed the issue for you. We may have to have you log out and log back in, but hopefully just the refresh of the browser will work.
Well, it happened. I can definitely try logging in back, logging out.
And notice just a small
Yeah.
tweak
Yeah,
needed
well,
to your access.
it did fix it. Yeah, now I can see the print option as well. Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you for raising that. And again, folks, if there's anything that seems harder than it should be, or seems like it's doing something other than it should, chances are it probably needs a little bit of a tweak. So please raise those as they come up so we can support you. All right, well, that is the end of the planned content we have for today. It sounds like we've got a plan to get our schedules in place and ready for our first schedules to be worked through hot schedules on Monday. We have our next touch point scheduled at the same time on Friday. For any of the corporate leadership team on the call, if there are any closing words that you'd like to throw out there, Reese, I know you're traveling, so if you can't come off mute, that's totally fine as well.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Tried to stay on mute for the background noise. No, that was great, Dylan. Appreciate it. I think, like you noted, we'll get the final reporting session booked. I just wanted to bring that up now. We were penciling for next Monday at the same time, 3:30 Eastern. But just wanted to float that to the group if there's anyone that has a hard conflict for that time, and we can try to find a different one. Just anybody off the top of their head looking at the calendar, any challenges if we were to book that for next Monday at the same time, 3:30 Eastern?
Give me a second. I'll make sure there's no calls on our end.
Thank you, Rosie.
Next Monday.
There's a marketing meeting on Monday at 3 to 5 Atlantic. So 2 to 4.
2 to 4. Okay. So that definitely wouldn't want to start it then. Perhaps Tuesday instead then, just so we don't put you guys in 3 hours of meetings as well.
Tuesday is operations from 3
So
to
we
5.
have OSC. Okay. 3 to 5. Going through the days, how does Wednesday look?
Wednesday would be a challenge for me, actually, Reese.
Okay.
Wednesday also has
Apologies.
advisory board at 2.
Okay, so could we do, I know it's a bit later in the day, Dylan, do we need a half hour or an hour for that call?
I got about a half hour worth of content. I'd like to schedule it for at least 45 minutes to give everybody an opportunity to discuss and have questions if possible.
Okay. So apologies and understanding that it would be marketing beforehand, but could we try 4 p.m. Eastern on Monday? That worked for folks. I just don't want to put it too late in the week in case there are questions that come up over the weekend and things that we need to address. But if we have to, then that's the way we'll go. But if 4 p.m. would work on Monday, I'd love to do that. Just let me know, guys.
4 p.m. works for me. I'm not on that call.
Okay.
Yeah, I can manage.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. We'll appreciate that. So Dylan, if you wouldn't mind sending over that invite for 4, and we'll do that.
Sure. Would you like me to do as we did these, send it over to you and you circulate it, or is just everybody on this group fine?
I think everybody on this group is fine. You can go ahead and send it direct.
Okay, very good. Will do.
Thank you. Perfect. Thanks, everyone. That's all from my end. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks again, everybody, for your attention and engagement on these, and we're available to you should you have any questions in the meantime. Otherwise, we'll talk to you on Friday.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for your help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, all.
Raman, your hand came up, so
hi,
Dylan
Dylan.
and I are still here. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I just want to click confirm the link has expiry. Like if I send to welcome link to my team member, does that link expire like within few days that they have to set it up right away?
It does expire, I believe it's 48 hours by default.
Okay, because one of my employee, when I sent them yesterday, they said the link expired and I sent them again, but then they were able to set it up.
It might be set for 24 hours. I'll take a look at what we have you set up as default for, but if it's anything less than 48 hours, I'll just go ahead and adjust it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for answering.
All right, thanks for
All right.
flagging it again. Bye, y'all.
Take care.
Thank you, Steve. Bye.
Thank you, guys.